All this week on PM, we've been looking at the prospect of the UK leaving the EU without a deal and what different companies think of that prospect. There are plenty of companies who do no trade with the rest of the EU, of course. Their business is domestic. Others trade only with countries outside the Union. Tonight, our business correspondent John T. Bloom has been hearing from one company boss.
John Elliott is executive chairman at Ebac, the very model of a self-made northern businessman.
We really like making things. We actually manage, in that room there, we make our own printed circuit boards because we just like making things and we're good at it.
He founded the company in 1972. Then he was the sole employee making dehumidifiers for the building trade. Now it employs well over 200 staff, exports across Europe and around the world. It makes water coolers, dehumidifiers and the only washing machine designed and made in the UK in a factory outside Darlington. As we walk down the production line, where he seems to know everyone by name, John told me he's not worried about Brexit, not even a little bit.
Not at all. Success in business is very, very, very simple. You've got to get the right product to the right people. Tariffs, exchange rates are a nuisance, not a deal breaker.
If we were to look at hard Brexit, we were just to leave the EU overnight, would that create you any problems at all?
We're leaving the European Union. Sometimes you need a shock. Every time you make a change, there's a cost. But the longer-term benefit should be worth the cost. Whether it's hard and you get over it, we roll our sleeves up and get on with it, or whether we just drag it, it doesn't matter. We've got to sort it out. We've got to move on.
What about workers here? Do you have many from the rest of the EU?
6, I think. 6 out of 250.
So that's not a concern for you? You can replace them with local people?
We don't recruit people on race or creed. We treat them all as employees.
So you wouldn't worry about shortage of staff, for instance, if we left the EU?
Absolutely not. And I think, you see, another problem is, in my opinion, you can't have free movement of people between economies which are totally different. Because the Romanians are much more highly motivated than UK people. So they come and distort the market. And what that does, by bringing these people in or buying things from cheap economies, it distorts our economy. And that's where we are now. We've got an unbalanced economy, which we actually sustain by borrowing bogus money and selling assets. And it isn't sustainable.
OK, what about the issue of borders? Do you export much?
Yes, we export a lot. Our biggest market for water coolers is France. So our second biggest market for water coolers, I think, is Spain or Greece. So we export quite a lot. And the secret to export is not tariffs or trade agreements. It's totally irrelevant. It's getting a product that customers want to buy. You've got to find a French customer who wants to buy your product. And then you'll buy it. Then you've got to do a deal which involves price. And you've got to take account of currency variations and tariffs. The nuisance is not deal breakers.
What about the fact that the companies are worried about long delays at the borders?
Well, it's absolute trash, isn't it? I mean, 56% of our trade isn't with the European Union. It's as if the entire world was the European Union. Most of the world is not in the European Union. Most of our trade, it's our biggest trader, but most of our trade isn't in the European Union. It's not an issue. We sell to America now. I don't know the difference. I don't know if there's any difference between selling to USA or France. The key thing is, get a product the customer wants to buy.
You must belong to business organisations and meet fellow businessmen all the time. A lot of them are telling me the complete opposite to that.
Absolutely right.
What do you say to them?
Well, I believe they're wrong. What surprises me, the people that I respect and are successful in business seem to have got this out of all proportion. They just resist change. And of course, some people are doing quite well at the present status quo. But they've got to get their minds around this. It is not sustainable.
And how would you change that? How do you?
We need an industrial strategy which isn't pie in the sky. We've had successive governments. It isn't a government. The Westminster government's been useless for 30, 40 years. Their industrial strategy is pie in the sky. What is it? We need more skills to produce high value-added goods to export. What we've got to look at is what resources we've got today. How can we maximise the value added from those today? Not what we might have. How do we maximise our present resources so that we can make this country solvent? Everybody's good.
How much, for instance, more could you do here? Do you reckon you could?
Absolutely, we can do a lot more. If we use the money we're going to waste on HS2 to build factories to produce things like shirts, we could get rid of all our trade deficit tomorrow. We've got to forget about export. What about supplying goods to the home market? This is a huge market. And not kid ourselves because we can get cheap from someone else.
Do you think a lot of this stuff about Brexit is a concern of London and the South East?
No, it's a concern of all kinds of people. People resist change. I've never heard anyone say this. The European Union is a fantastic organisation. Aren't we looking to be members? Even people who want to stay, everybody accepts it's useless. Everybody accepts it's incumbent. But I thought, why do we want to stay in it? People resist change. And some people, of course, in the present situation are doing quite well. So they don't want to change, do they? But most people in the UK are not doing quite well.
In my experience, that is a minority opinion in British industry. It's also true the sector has been in relative decline for decades. It's been shifting production overseas and our trade deficit has ballooned. John Elliott, for one, believes Brexit will be just what the doctor ordered.
Jonty Bloom reporting, and our series continues tomorrow.